Hey everyone. So, you know how we're always talking about how technology changes things like society and stuff? Well, get this. I was reading this article, right? And it's by these experts, Nick Couldry and Ulises Mejias. They're from the London School of Economics, so
Mm.
pretty legit. Anyway, they're talking about this idea of data colonialism.
hmm
And at first, I was like, data colonialism? What is this, the 1800s again? But the more I read, the more it kind of clicked.
Yeah.
They're basically saying that all these tech giants, they're on this huge data grab, right? And we're the ones being mined, like we're some kind of natural resource. And it all ties into this whole thing about inequality, which I know we've talked about before. Because it's not just about those targeted ads anymore, you know, the ones that follow you around the internet.
Yeah.
This is something way bigger.
It really is. And the thing is, it's often so subtle, so beneath the surface that we don't even realize it's happening. Think about it. Every time you use a ride-sharing app, your location's being tracked. Every quiz you take for an online course, boom, your answers are analyzed. It's this constant flow of information from us to them.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it like that.
Totally. And it gets even wilder. They have this example in the article, right, about these workers, and every single thing they do is monitored. Like every keystroke they make, every mouse movement, it's all recorded. They even talk about students having their quiz answers tracked.
No way. Seriously.
Yeah, it's like being under a microscope, you know? And all that data, our data, it's being used to benefit corporations in ways we don't even fully grasp.
It really makes you think twice about that whole I've got nothing to hide
Yeah.
attitude, you know?
Yeah.
I got to say, when I first saw the term data colonialism, I was like, whoa, that seems a bit extreme, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see that.
But then I started thinking about it, right? Like,
Mm.
what if it's not about actual land, you know, physical territory? What if it's about these digital spaces where we live our lives now? And
Well,
instead of like gold or oil or whatever, it's our data that's being extracted.
you've got it. And the article does a really good job of breaking down that comparison. It's not about saying there are literal colonies with flags and all that, but it's about recognizing a pattern, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Like one thing they highlight is how data colonialism, just like the historical kind, often means taking resources from groups that don't have as much power. They even use this phrase, data territories, which I thought was super interesting.
Data territories. I like that.
Yeah, it's like we think we're just using these free apps, these services, but we're actually entering these digital zones where they're claiming our data as their own.
And it's not always a fair trade, right?
They-
Like, do we really understand what we're giving up?
Exactly. That's another parallel the article brings up, how the real costs, the consequences of all this data extraction, they're often hidden from us.
It's like those terms and conditions nobody reads. We just click agree, agree, agree without a clue how they might use our data.
Right. They might sell it, or who knows, maybe even use it against us somehow. And that's not even the worst part.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. The article argues that this whole system, this data colonialism, can actually make existing power imbalances in society even worse.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. Whoever controls all that data, they have the power to shape the story, you know? They can influence what people think, maybe even swing elections. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, that is pretty intense. So it's not just about annoying ads anymore. We're talking about power, about control, and the potential for things to get really messed up. But how did we even get to this point? Was this just bound to happen with the internet? You know, it's kind of wild when you think about it. Back when the internet was brand new, everyone was freaking out about how it was going to, like, connect everyone and make everything fair.
Oh, totally. It was like the Wild West, but online.
Yeah.
So much potential.
But then somewhere along the way, things kind of veered off track. Did we miss a turn somewhere?
Well, what the article points out, and I thought this was really insightful, is that it didn't have to be this way. You know, this wasn't inevitable.
Okay, so what happened?
It was all these choices, you see. Choices about who got to build the internet, who got to control it. And honestly, a lot of those choices, let's just say they weren't really about equality or, you know, respecting our privacy.
No, definitely not.
It's like they saw this amazing tool, this way to connect the whole world, and all they saw was dollar signs. A big old gold rush, but for data.
So it's not really about the technology itself. It's about who makes the rules, right?
Exactly.
Which brings us to the big question, the one I know everyone's thinking. What can we actually do about it?
Right. It can feel kind of overwhelming, right?
Totally. Like, I finished that article and I was like, well, great. Now I just feel helpless. Like, we're all stuck in this web and good luck ever getting out.
Yeah, I hear ya. It's easy to feel like we're just along for the ride. But the article makes a really important point. Even if there aren't any easy answers, becoming aware of the problem is a huge first step.
Awareness. Like, knowing what we're up against.
Yeah. It's like if you're lost in the woods, right, the first thing you got to do is figure out where you are, get your bearings, and then you can start figuring out how to find your way out.
Okay, so step one, actually read those terms and conditions that nobody reads.
Uh-huh. Well, there you go. I know. They're like written in a foreign language or something.
Seriously. But maybe, like you said, it's worth taking the time to understand what we're signing up for.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
not just about the legal stuff. Maybe it's also about, thinking twice before we put so much out there. Like, do we really need that new social media app? Or is it just feeding this whole machine?
Oh, interesting. You're saying we should be more careful about our digital footprint, what we share, who we share it with.
Right. Asking ourselves those questions. And then, on a bigger level, maybe it's about supporting the people and organizations out there who are trying to make a difference, fighting for our digital rights, holding these big companies accountable.
Yeah, totally. Because our data is valuable, right?
Absolutely. We should have a say in how it's used. It's like you wouldn't want some random company just coming into your house and taking inventory of all your stuff,
I
right?
love that analogy. Data as something we own, something to protect.
Exactly.
So maybe this whole data colonialism thing, it's not about logging off forever, It's about taking back control, demanding some transparency, and fighting for a digital world that's actually fair for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Wow. This conversation has really given me a lot to think about how I use the internet and also just this whole bigger picture of data and power. Data colonialism, it sounds kind of intense, but the more we talk about it, the more I realize it's something we all need to be talking about, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's not going to go away on its own.
Exactly. And hey, who knows? This could be a whole new path for us for these deep dives. But for today, thanks for exploring this with me. I'd love to hear what you all think. Keep those conversations going. And until next time, stay curious.